Message from the Streets, live streaming. And the topic of the day is DNA and its results on the future. Now, a lot of times people haven't been educated about the importance of DNA. So I'm going to an aspect of it that I think there's need to be acknowledged by people. Because right now in the day, the things that we do, how we demonstrate, how we orchestrate our lives, our behavior, the things that we progress in, and the things that we stay stagnated in, could be an effect on our children and their children through DNA. DNA is like, you know, it has switches to it. And sometimes it lay dormant in people. So some people, they say, you know what, people might be hereditary of alcoholism. If you can be hereditary from alcoholism, you can be hereditary for drug usage. You could be hereditary for being a murderer, a thief, because it's in the DNA. Our children and our children's and us ourselves, we are semi-replicants of our foreparents. Our foreparents made us up. It's just that simple. They combined DNA, and just like our combined DNA is making up has made up our children, and it's going to go on. Sometimes people say, "Man, you act like your grandfather, or you act like this your uncle, or you look like that." That's because of DNA. And I'm expounding on this DNA topic because we have to be more careful about how we are programming ourselves, because these programs of mischief and self-hatred and self-destruction is going to be passed on to our children. Naturally, they have their own path that they can choose, but that selection of what they do, they can select things that are part of their DNA. Turn it on, become real angry, real aggressive, real passive. It's positive things that can be passed on in the DNA, but there's negative things that can be passed on in the DNA. And those are things that I'm speaking on today. Those negative things that can be passed on within the DNA pool. So if you are a person, you got a partner, I'm gonna speak, because I'm gonna keep it plain and simple. If you're a person that is trifling, you don't got no giddy up about yourself, you lay at home all day and things of that nature, you're creating a possible DNA selection for your children and their children, because it's in the DNA. The replication of the genes, or the cells, so forth and so on. So that is not a good look. So we're not just living for ourselves. Most people think that's what they're living for. That's why people come out and do certain things. This wasn't explained to me when I was young. I lived a crazy life. I'm messing around with various types of drugs and alcohol, and living a certain type of life, and programming myself with a certain type of imagery, through the television and the music and things. That's in my DNA, and it can be passed on to my children, my son and my daughter and stuff like that. But there's also another part of me that can be passed on to them as well. So it's kind of like, why play Russian roulette with your children? And that's like, if you're a person that don't want to learn, you don't want to learn, it's a possibility that your children won't have an appetite for it either. So we got to stop living just by ourselves and know that we're living for the future of our representations on this planet. That's why when you look in the Congress, a lot of those people that's there, they have been grown for those positions because of what's going on in this physical plane, and their parents have made a way, and then once their children get into these arenas, their DNA may be activated, and they may continue to go on and ways to advocate for the people, or ways to be treacherous to the people, just like an athlete. A lot of athletes, they look and say, I want my son or my daughter to follow in this in this path, and the DNA, their children are athletically, naturally. So the DNA, some people, children are naturally have a certain type of intuition and intelligence. And then in DNA, we got some people, their children are in another type of category, where so they don't have to be stuck there, but they are living out a part of what their parents had passed on to them. I know this might don't make a whole lot of sense, but if you just think about it, just think about it a little bit. About, when you see little children when they very, very young, and they demonstrating, and they making these types of faces, and they have this type of behavior. This behavior is something that has already been programmed in them from their mother and their father DNA, probably some of their grandparents DNA, their great grandparents. As say the great grandparent, their DNA is not going to be as strong as the grandparent and then the parents' DNA in a child. This is something just to consider. Be mindful of your behavior. Be mindful of the things that you allow to be a part of your character, because you're passing it on to your children and your children's children. I bring you this message in love, and I leave you this message in peace. And most importantly, this is just a point of view. Anybody have any comments, any perspectives, please leave them, because in this world, each one teach one, each one reach one, each one seek one. We are our brothers and our sisters keepers. And as we come to the mindset that we are not, we're doing ourselves a disservice. We're doing our brothers and sisters a disservice. We're doing humanity a disservice. Man, we got to work together. Love is king. Forget what you heard. They got this fraudulent idea out here about thuggism, gangster life, this political trickery. So many negative avenues and aspects is being bombarded on the children's mind. This preference, what they call it, agenda assignment, a lot of things. So we got to teach our children, because if we don't teach our children, there's a lot of institutions and systems out here in the world that will teach them, and they're going to teach them some things that you wish you would have taught them to counter some of this behavior, counter some of this fraudulent thought process, counter some of this thinking. And you have to reinforce your children and make them strong from when they're young with information. Don't continue to fail your children, and we can't continue to fail these young people. If you noticed what went on the last couple of weeks here in the United States, over the last 60 days, 4 known mass shootings. But those was the ones that made the media, the news and things on a high scale. Somebody shot up a church, somebody shot up a grocery store, somebody shot up an elementary school, somebody shot up just today a hospital. And I heard on another person's station that there has been over 200 mass shootings already this year in the United States. I don't know where they got that statistic from, but it wouldn't surprise me, because when a foundation of a civilization is based on violence, based on aggressive, based on lies and illusions, it's not hard to see the fruit of the society, what it's going to be and what its possibilities can be. Once again, peace, love, and grace, and live your life on purpose, because life is all purpose.